Here we go. Our off-season to-do list starts now. Alphabetical order. A is for Arizona Diamondbacks. Jack Sommers joins us right now, and you can hear him on Snakes Territory. Also, D-backs on SI, beat writer for Sports Illustrated. Jack, great to see you again. And first off, can you just lay out a little preview of what your off-season to-do list is for the Diamondbacks, and then we'll go one by one.
Sure. Probably like all 30 teams in Major League Baseball, they need to add pitching, but they severely need to add pitching. They need two starting pitchers to add to their rotation. Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, free agents, of course, and Corbin Burns is out until at least the All-Star break. So they need to bring on at least two starters. They may go aggressively try to trade for a higher frontline starter. I don't think they have the dollars to sign a frontline starter and then possibly backfill with a more bargain basement fifth starter. At the same time, they need to add a closer and or a couple of high leverage relievers. Mike Hazen in the past, him and his front office have kind of gravitated towards this closer by committee situation, which doesn't really work for them. And I pressed him a little bit on it. Are you going to try to get a closer this year? And he said, probably, a little reluctantly. But I know that Torey Lovullo prefers to have a closer as opposed to doing the committee route. And with 8 years of history of having one of the weakest bullpens in the league, with a few exceptions here and there, this is a spot that they have to fill. Justin Martinez and A.J. Puck are both out until the second half of the season. Puck might come back a little bit sooner. He had the brace procedure as opposed to Tommy John. So, you can't really count on those guys. They need a closer. They brought in a bunch of young guys at the trade deadline, some pretty good relievers to backfill, but they need a closer. And then they need a right-handed bat. It could be a first baseman. They need a platoon mate for Pavin Smith, who's a left-handed hitter, who's likely going to get most of the reps at first base, but then they need a short side platoon guy. They also really could use a Randall Grichuk type person to fill that similar role because Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is also out the first half of the season, at least due to an ACL tear. So they need a right-handed outfield bat. So on top of that, beyond that top three bullet points, they actually need a backup catcher as well. James McCann came in and did a great job for them. And actually, by the end of the season, was catching more than Gabriel Marino because of concerns over pitch calling and how well McCann is at that. And Marino is kind of struggling with it. So the D-backs certainly need a backup catcher. I think they'd like to bring McCann back. But when I spoke to him at the end of the season, he was very non-committal about returning.
Okay, Jack, where do we start? All right, we'll start with the first one. They need pitchers. Well, Zach Gallen's still there. Why can't they just re-sign Zach Gallen? They don't like him that much. I mean, that seems like an obvious one to me, but I mean, who would be the other starting pitcher? Are they going to go fishing in the deep waters? Are they going to try to, lure hopefully a bargain guy? Because, for a long time, this was supposed to be their strength with Fott and Kelly and Gallen and Eduardo Rodriguez, so who do they go get, and why would they just let Gallen walk? Why not try to sign him?
Well, with Gallen, I think to sign Scott Boras' client, to sign him to a long-term deal is going to take them out of their comfort zone financially. Ownership has said that they're cutting payroll this year, and with $50 million of dead money on the roster due to all the injuries, they probably only have somewhere in the $30 to $40 million range to spend. They're certainly going to give Zach Gallen the qualifying offer, and he's certain to reject it. There's a pretty good chance that they may try to bring Merrill Kelly back. Merrill has indicated a very strong desire to stay in Arizona. He lives here. He loves it here. He's an Arizona guy. I think he would like nothing better than to be able to come back. But he's not going to come back for peanuts. If they lowball him, he'll go where he's going to get paid, of course. One thing that Jesse Friedman and I floated, Hunter Green was put out there on an article by MLB.com as a potential trade candidate for the Reds to use to bolster their offense. And if you really want to go blockbuster, they could perhaps trade, say, Ketel Marte for Hunter Green. Green's got 4 years of control of $61 million. He's had his injury history, but this past year it was groin injuries, not arm or elbow. And when he's on the field, he's an ace level starter. and he's young with 4 years of controls. So that's one possibility. I think that the Diamondbacks are very much going to have to pursue the trade route to fill most of their holes. If they were going to go after, say, Mackenzie Gore from the Nationals, in that case, you're probably looking at more of a prospects deal, but they're going to have to peel off 2 or 3 guys out of their top 5 prospects just to get him away from the Nationals. I think it's going to have to come more via trade, and they're going to have to be aggressive with trades as opposed to a lot of free agent signing.
All right, payroll rollback. So does that mean that they were deked by the fact that they made it to the World Series in 20, I don't remember now, 22 or 23? 23. And so does that mean that they were deked by that? Because I remember when they signed Jordan Montgomery, hey, we saw an influx of season ticket holders for the 24 season, so we had a little extra money to spend. Was it poor planning, or was it, hey, you know what, we got 2 years to try to get this thing done, and then after that, we got to cut payroll back?
I think it's more the latter, what you just said. They got a windfall from that 23 World Series. They invested a lot in pitching. Of course, they tried the Jordan Montgomery thing. And the Corbin Burns thing kind of fell out of the sky. He contacted them, wanted to, go to Arizona, stay there because he lives there. And so Ken Kendrick was willing to increase the payroll beyond his comfort zone to make that happen. That was actually his impetus. Mike Hazen was, traipsing around in the mountains of New Zealand with his kids, hiking when that opportunity came up. And Ken Kendrick was the driver of the Corbin Burns deal. In the past, Ken's been known to kind of sandbag a little bit about what he's willing to spend and end up spending over what they've said. But both he and Derek Hall have said that they're not going to be at quite the same levels as they were the last 2 years. The last 2 years, back-to-back years, they set payroll records for their franchise.
Okay, you mentioned corner bats. They had 2 corner bats. They traded them away, and now it's Suarez and Naylor. So are they going to look for maybe bring one of them back if they can? Or you mentioned trades. Do they have enough prospects to go trade for corner bats, starting pitcher, closer? I mean, do they have this many prospects if they're not going to go out in free agency to trade for all these people and in a tough division? I mean, let's be honest. With the Giants looking to go for it, the Dodgers back-to-back world champs, the Padres are still going to be decent. Do they have enough to compete?
I think the combination, they do. And Mike Hazen will never back off trying to compete. I think you know that about his reputation. He's, rebuild is a dirty word. I did say they have $30 to $40 million space in this year's payroll. So they're going to be able to use some of that money. It's going to have to be a combination of trades and free agency. And, look, if they end up ponying up big time for a pitcher, then they're going to have to fill almost everything else by trade, or vice versa. If they're able to land a pretty good pitcher like a Hunter Green via trade, then they can use free agency dollars to fill some of the other gaps. One name that they've been tied to is Paul Goldschmidt as a possible return to be short side platoon. Basically he still hits left-handed pitching, doesn't hit right-handed pitching, unfortunately, anymore. But he could be a good mentor to Pavin Smith and pick up, 200, 250 plate appearances. And I don't think it's going to cost more than 6, 7, 10 million tops to bring Goldie back for 1 year. So that's one type of possibility. As far as Suarez and Naylor, a big emphasis for the Diamondbacks is improved defense. The defense was a lot better over the last 2 months of the year. Gino, I love that man. I mean, he is just one of the most genuine people in the world, and you couldn't be more happy than to see him have success. However, his defense has really taken a big step back, and I just don't see the Diamondbacks going down that road. Similar with Naylor. He's a really good hitter, but his defensive first base overall rates out quite poorly, well below average. I don't think the team is willing to go back down that road. They struggled on defense mightily in the first 4 months of the season at those 2 positions.
Ketel Marte, you mentioned it a little bit here, the Hunter Green, bolster their offense. He's a perennial top 3 MVP candidate. There's a little bit of scuttlebutt about, what was going on with the team, and is he there every day after the All-Star break, all that stuff. Is that something that the team could really push that trade and get maybe like 2 or 3 big league ready pieces? Because he's locked up, I think, until 2030 is that new extension, which teams for that kind of bat, it's an impact bat immediately into somebody's lineup, which means the Diamondbacks will be losing that impact bat.
Yeah, they control him for the next 5 years through his age 36 season. However, second baseman, middle 30s, 35, 36, that's when his contract gets more expensive too. It's kind of now or never. He's got 10-5 rights coming up, I think, in May or June of next year based on service time. So, if they want to trade him and try to use that level of talent to fill in all of these holes, it's now or never.
That's a yes. That's a yes then.
That is
That's a yes, Jack. You just said it because they don't want to get to a 10-5. So, yes, okay. So we can look for Ketel Marte. And yesterday we heard Tarek Skubal's name mentioned as possibly being traded. So it'll be a very busy offseason on Snakes territory because we'll see what they get. But, man, he could be worth so much as a trade target.
Yeah. One thing I'll say is, Krause used the phrase major league ready. They want frontline major league talent back if they trade Ketel. Like, they're not going to trade him for high-end prospects that maybe just had a whiff of Major League Baseball experience this past year, a rookie or whatever. If they move Ketel Marte, they're getting frontline pitching or they don't do it.
What do you think is the percentage chance that actually happens? A trade.
Boy.
As you mentioned, you can't do it let's say the Diamondbacks don't have a good first half. You can't do it at the trade deadline. You would have to do it sooner than that. It gets tricky during the season. So if they're going to do this, it really does have to happen over these few months. And I guess you can add this to your answer. How pissed off would Diamondbacks fans be? He seems like he's one of the more popular players for a fan base with one guy on a team, right? Like, the Diamondbacks are not loaded. I mean, there are some other names that they like, Corbin Carroll, but Ketel Marte, a lot of personality. I mean, he's been, a top 3, top 5 MVP guy multiple times, had big memories and moments for them in 2023, leading that team to, a really great run in 2023. So how beloved is he and how pissed off would fans be if the return is not going to help them be better in 2026, which I think is hard to do.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm kind of, grasping at straws maybe at the Hunter Green concept, which I actually really like. I mean, I think that's actually a perfect move for them if they're going to move him, because that guy, he's a stud. I mean, when he's healthy and on the mound, he is an absolute stud. He can front anybody's rotation when healthy. So, that's the level of talent that they'll need to get to make them competitive. They do have a lot of pretty good young middle infield prospects coming up. And there's a couple of AAA that could maybe, like a Tommy Troy, of course, Jordan Lawler, who finished up the year much better. They could come in and step in and fill the breach at second base if they were able to get, a large upgrade. I mean, don't forget the 3 remaining starters that they have, Ryan Nelson, Brandon Pfaadt, and Eduardo Rodriguez. 2 of those guys just are coming off 5+ ERA seasons. The only one of those 3 that they have holdovers that performed well was Ryan Nelson. So, he had a 3.39 ERA. So, I mean, they need a guy. They need a real guy out there in front of that rotation. Look, when Corbin Burns comes back, you guys know, Tommy John returnees, they don't just step right into it and return to their stud selves. It takes some time. Think Sandy Alcantara, right? It's not like they're going to – those guys are coming back from injury in the second half of the season and they'll step right in. They're going to take a half a year or a year to get back to what they were, if they do.
The Gabby Moreno stuff was like, wait, what? Because was it 2 years ago when he was the Gold Glove winner, or last? It was 2 years ago, right? And now
there's been concerns raised about his pitch calling and game calling.
Wow, okay.
It was something that they danced around quite a bit. It started off where they were emphasizing how good McCann was at it. And then they started talking about, it takes 3 to 4 years in the league before you've really got enough experience. And then finally, Torey Lovello kind of let out a little bit verbally in public press conferences that, there might be some issues there with Gabby's game calling. And by the end of the season, if you look at, McCann caught 2/3 of the games over the last 2 weeks of the year. When they were fighting to try to, stay alive in that race, McCann was getting the bulk of the catching duties and Moreno was a DH. He is young. I mean, it is going to take some time. and he's going to be the starter, but he's also been injury prone, right? He's never started 100 games behind the plate. Last year, he had a little bad luck. He fractured a finger. I think he started 65. The year before that, 83. The year before that, 90 something. He's never even started 100 games yet. So durability and pitch calling are two concerns, and so they need a really strong backup catcher. Be great if they could bring McCann back, but my guess is McCann's probably looking to go to a team that's a little bit more of a surefire contender. He may have questions or doubts about the D-backs' ability to contend in 2026.